everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of Embracing Autism. Today we're going to be discussing dating and love and relationships. So to start out, my name is Brian Mishler. I'm a licensed clinical social worker at the Trevert Center. And let's introduce, next on my list would be Marcos.
Hi everyone, my name is Marcos Ep3. I'm an advocate for autism. I'm a writer, and I give talks and advice on how to live with autism. And it's going to be a very nice approach to discuss feelings and the approach that autistic people have on this matter that not all the time is discussed. And today we aim to broaden this. It's going to be cool.
All right, next on the list is Tara.
Hi, Tara Geyer here, board certified behavior analyst at the Trevert Center, and excited to get started today. Nice to see you guys again. Spencer, I see you next.
Hey guys, my name is Spencer Deppis. I also work at the Trevert Center, and I'm an upcoming autism activist, and I can't wait to work with Marcos and everyone here. Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely, our pleasure. So as we get started today with love and relationships, why don't Marcos and Spencer give us a little background and history and maybe like where you're at currently when it comes to relationships.
Marcos, would you like to take this one first?
Absolutely. I'm currently dating, but it's a very long story because to me, dating was never straightforward. People say dating is a very straightforward thing. It's an inbuilt thing on human beings to kind of seek love and affection. And to me, it wasn't. To me, it was more like a nightmare at first, and then lots of challenges, kind of to read the other people, to get around them, to kind of disguise your feelings because you're never going to show the first time. You have to kind of prepare the terrain. And to me, that's the worst part. And when it came to dating, to me, the first thing I ever wanted was a girl to dance with me. Then secondly, I wanted a girl to hold me tight and to defend me because I feel the necessity of being protected all the time. And I came to the conclusion I was very, very frightful of life. So a lot of girls came and said, Marcus, don't be afraid of life. Don't count on us to live your life. Go, live your life. And I thought it was a distant thing, but in fact it wasn't. So for a long time, I've been away from girls, away from dating or trying to approach girls. And this year, my girlfriend presented to me. She started to know me better, and now we're dating and knowing each other better every day. I think this is dating. She showed me that this is dating, and she is here to protect me the way she can. And I think that's very beautiful and caring of her.
That is beautiful. Excellent.
Got some butterflies in my stomach from hearing that. Well, Marcos, I don't think I can beat you there. Currently, I am not dating anybody, but I've been learning tons of new relationship hacks and things that I can use to help me. Because for the longest time, I think the number one thing for me was taking full responsibility. Because I tried to get in a relationship about 2 or 3 years ago, but what I did was I made it a really bad, painful connection. So even though I wanted a girlfriend or someone that was a significant other to me, it was funny. It's like I wanted a relationship, but I didn't want the pain. In order to have a good relationship, there's going to be some painful moments because you're creating a better person who you are. So now I've been looking more as life as not a test, but a party. And what I mean by that is like I'm going to be more enthused. I'm going to be more happy. I want to put myself out there, but in a way that I feel that I know that I'm impressing myself and that it's me, not that I'm trying to impress other people, but that I'm happy with who I am fully. And the more I do that and the more I express myself, the more that I build a good rapport, and the more I can have a lot more friends that are the opposite sex. And when I find someone that I truly like, that I can enjoy as a friend and as more of a person, then maybe I'll be ready. But at the same time, there's some things in my body or my blueprint, I would say, that there's still some painful memories that I'm still trying to chip away at. There's some bad habits. However, like anything, it does take time and does take consistency. And that compound effect will really help because over the past half year, I've grown by leaps and bounds. Just by saying, know what, Spence, I'm improving every day. I'm not a failure for not having a girlfriend. I'm not a failure for living in my parents' house. This is all an improvement for who I am. And that's something that I use to really strive forward.
That's excellent, Spencer. That's really thoughtful, both of you. So what do you think some of the like I, we've talked about this, and this is kind of why we're having this topic, is that often dating can be a struggle for people on the autism spectrum. Well, I should say dating can be a struggle for everybody, and it's often confusing for both sides. I think that for men and women, it's often confusing on what the other sex is interested in, how to engage, how to participate. But in the line of work that I do with psychotherapy, I'd say for older teens and young adults, and largely I work with older teens, young adult men. Dating is one of the big questions that I get, that they want to engage in relationships, but it's a struggle.
I'm glad you said that though, Brian.
Yeah.
Because I know for me, it took, my gosh, maybe 1,000, 10,000 hours where I would just say random stuff. Like everyone's like, dude, why are you so random? Just because for me, I wanted to really express myself and give to other people. And it took a lot of time for me to be like, okay, what can I say and not say? It took a lot of failure and a lot of rejection, but at the same time, I'm thinking I'm finally understanding like how to really build a good rapport with other people without like saying everything I want to, because I get so emotionally invested in a person that I really enjoy being with. And I like to say everything and everything that just comes in my mouth. Where I'm like, okay, hold on, Spencer. Let's think a little bit more logically here and think about what I can use that not be so awkward maybe, but something that will keep the conversation going, like something that they enjoy as well. So it's both mutual sides. Because if I talk about what I want all the time, it's gonna be a one-sided conversation. So I can find like what they enjoy too, then it's something that can be a win-win.
So I'm kind of hearing from both of you that it doesn't come naturally.
Oh no.
It's something that you've really had to work on and really almost like investigate and research how to date, how to have a relationship, what love is all about.
The easiest way is just become obsessed by it. You're not gonna dabble in it and expect to have a relationship. You really have to just put yourself out there consistently,
Take
day
practice.
after day. Yeah.
One of the things I always find funny is like how females and males interact with each other and just sort of assume the other person knows what they're thinking and those kinds of things, especially if you've been in a relationship for a while. So can you guys kind of speak to that? Like for example, a certain look you might get like from a significant other, or them saying, I'm fine, when really they're not fine. And like you might think, okay, she said she's fine, I'm gonna walk away. Cool. Like, have you had experiences like that where you've totally missed social cues or read things differently, where maybe, Marcos, you might be able to speak to this one well with your girlfriend kind of helping you navigate some of those things?
She navigates for me because sometimes my GPS, let's put it this way, it's turned off because the sociability is so diverse and it's happening in seconds. Like an expression can change, a look can change, and my girlfriend always says to me, I'm looking at you in a happy way today. That's why my eyes are so big, that's why my eyes are shining, and because I'm very happy. And prior to that, no other girl said it to me, because my girl, the advantage of her relate to other girls, other females, is that she studied autism in order to embrace me, to kind of see what she was going to deal with in autism. Because most other girls, they say, hey, you're beautiful. And you are too. And this is the matter of them to call my attention and say, hey, I'm attracted to you, but I didn't notice. I just replied, so are you. You are beautiful, and so are you. And I missed the chance. So my girlfriend came and translated everything in the way. And it kind of made love easier to me. It's making love easier to me.
That's really awesome. I hope we get to meet her someday.
Yeah, she is struggling to learn English, but I think as soon as she learns, she is going to be here.
I have to say, Marco, I'm sorry.
If that's possible.
I was just writing some information down because I, for the longest time, have no idea I'm the most dense person on this planet unless someone reaches out to me and says, hey, I like you. There's absolutely no way if I'm thinking, hey, does this girl like me or not? So, yeah, so big eyes, glassy eyes. All right.
Don't confuse it with being like having the flu or something, though. You guys can be sick. That's great, though, that you have someone that's able to just walk you through those things, because I think that's really important for other people to just recognize, okay, maybe they're missing this or that, or I could just give a little bump and, oh yeah, cool, now we can connect. I think early on, let's talk about like early on dating experiences, like first meeting someone out or first, okay, so the dating world's really different now, right? Are you guys on dating apps? Have you explored stuff like that and had
Not at all. I
challenges?
made a profile and I was like, this is weird.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. The one time I did, like years ago, I ended up getting stalked. So I think that there is something to that too, where like girls can feel very protective and girls like ultimately feel more vulnerable in situations. So if there's a lot of like disconnect and awkwardness, like you said that word earlier, Spencer, sometimes you feel like you're just awkward.
Yeah.
I think there can be a lot of miscommunication and social cues of like, okay, that guy's just weird, right? And then you're kind of turned off to the situation when really maybe in your head you're just like, oh my god, what should I say? Did I say that wrong? Da, da, da. You know, making yourself feel awkward, and then it comes across to the girls like, oh, red flag, red flag. So yeah, I think there can be a lot going on in just that tiny little interaction with someone initially where both people are just really misreading the situation.
I think you read my mind perfectly there, because for the longest time I thought if I was more articulate and everything like that and building a better rapport that way, communication wise, verbally, I thought it'd be better. But it was actually my nonverbal communication, because like the eye contact, the way I kind of moved myself, if I was really being who I was, then it was okay. But if I was like getting all like embarrassed, or if I was making this way too emotional for me, that's when it started getting like really, really awkward, and it just didn't work out whatsoever. So, Tara, you got it right in the head right there.
Spencer, I know when we had a talk a while ago when we were kind of talking about having this and coming up with ideas for the show, you brought this up and you said kind of what was difficult was the game that you play in early relationships. And I I believe, Marcos, you said a little bit of this too, but kind of along the lines of like, you can like somebody, but you can't just come out and say that you like somebody early on. Can you talk about that a little bit, and the confusion of like, I thought what you said was great, because I feel like, well, they've often asked me to have a class and to for young adult males with autism on how to read women, and of course my response was, well, somebody's going to have to give me a class to teach me how to do that first. It's a difficult scenario, and I'm sure for women the other way it's exactly the same. It's a difficult scenario to navigate when you might like someone, but like you said, you can't come out and just say I like you. There's like this game that's being played. Can you talk a little bit about that? in your experience there?
Well, from the knowledge that I know, I was reading this book and there was something that just really connected with me. He said, if people that enjoy outside, they usually have one rule, and that's just enjoy all the beauty of it. You see, I made so many rules to a relationship, like it has to be this way, it has to be this way, it has to be this way. And it was like, I had to make everything perfect. Reality, it should just be one rule. Enjoy being with the person, but at the same time, knowing that you're enough. Because if you try to be someone that you're not, that's the biggest issue right there, because then you're thinking about everything that's going on. You're being way too much emotionally invested into yourself at the moment, where you can't really interact with the person that you're enjoying, and almost think of her as a friend in the beginning. I know a lot of people say don't do that, but for me, that's just the biggest way that I can really connect with somebody, because I'm not expecting anything. It's funny, like when you don't expect anything to happen, more something kind of just comes to fruition. And that was one of those things that the more I've been applying in my life, the easier it's been to talk to a lot of other women, the more it's been easy to build better relationships and so forth for me. So just have one or two simple rules for yourself that just be like, you know what? I want ultimate emotion for me, and that's gonna be perfect. I don't want anything else from that, you know?
That sounds great, Spencer. They say, you know, you want to marry your best friend because things change and things come and go in relationships. But if you've got a strong core of a good friendship with somebody, then that's going to last throughout all the other stuff you're going to go through.
And a lot of relationships don't really work because we're feeding off each other's significance. And what happens is we're not really, like, you might have the lovebird thing for maybe 3 months, but then it kind of gets a little old. And if you don't really have them as a mutual friend, like the best friend type of thing, you can't really connect and amplify each other's emotions for more pleasurable experiences, like helping each other out. That's gonna be a really, really tough time. That's why for me, I always told myself, like, social media and like dating apps were never a thing, because like 99% probably of them was just having a one night stand or something. But in reality, maybe there's somebody out there like that too, and maybe I can learn a lot more information from that, just putting myself out there. Because in order to have that successful relationship, I have to go on the far right side of failure to build who I am. It's not really failure if I'm investing in myself, because I know when I find the perfect one, I'll have all the skill sets I need to keep her, or to make sure that I have what she needs. You know, it's something that I'm always improving myself. And I look at that as a incentive or a pleasurable experience instead of a painful experience of when I get rejected, or maybe not rejected, but it just doesn't work out.
Spencer, I think when you find that one, all you have to do is speak as openly as you are speaking right now. I think that's going to be the key to her going, oh, I get it. Cool. Let's move forward. You know, like, I think, Marcos, you've been able to do that well with your girlfriend, just speaking openly and honestly about any questions, concerns, things you're confused about, and just how you're feeling in general.
And I admire her, Tara, because she takes what I said and she goes through it, all the aspects of what I said. She says, if I say to her, I'm very happy today, and she says, hey, great, you're happy today because we are dating, we're here, we're confident. And she walks me through everything in her head and my head too. She kind of develops this ability within the time of being with me, kind of as almost as if time was, and I like what Spencer said, that's about enjoying the ride, kind of looking at each other and say, this is the way, let's enjoy it, let's make the best, let's learn from it, let's grow from it. Because in every case, I'm going to be learning from love. I think this is interesting to take into consideration.
Absolutely. I think that's a good rule of thumb for life in general, in all relationships. Sit back, enjoy the ride. Don't stress, you know. Everything kind of falls into place when you just let it happen.
Marcus, could you tell us a little bit like how you met your girlfriend and how the relationship kind of started?
it's a very interesting history, Brian. Good you touched it, because my girlfriend came to me. I didn't come after her. I didn't propose to her. She proposed to me. And it's very interesting because the story was I wasn't expecting, and she said, "Let me show you a thing." And then she said, "Let's do it. Enjoy it." Like Tara said, exactly what Tara said. Enjoy, sit back, and let me do the ride alongside with you. Let me learn from you. And the thing that she always pointed to me since the first day, she said, "Let's learn together. Let's be together. Let's be side by side. And let's not take a goal like I want to be there within 1 year, because this year is to learn. I think this is the role, and this is taking us where we want to go. And even though we are distant, we are far away, she always comes up with the learning thing. And I think she took that because she saw in me a very interesting beauty, a very interesting quality in my subject, things I talked about, but she didn't know how to approach an autistic person, and she went to learn it. This is what I find interesting. She went to learn it. She went to learn about autism in all its forms, not only the light form, but the heavy form too. And when I saw that, it's as if she became autistic in order to understand my point of view. That's quite a thing.
Marcos, what do you mean by light form and heavy form?
Light form, like autistic in severe in
Severity.
and the grades of severity, the shades of blue in the autistic spectrum,
Gotcha.
the like the severe forms and the what would be considered the Asperger's.
Mm-hmm.
But she understood everything, every aspect of autism, in every term, in every condition.
And from that, probably learned that everyone is completely different. So you can't say, you know, this person has autism, so they're going to think about it this way. That's not at all
No,
what
she
happens as human beings.
went according to the ride, and she learned it. She learned it pretty quickly.
I have a question about sensory stuff. So, say like going on a first date, if you could give advice to someone out there dating someone with autism, you know, what would be a good first date? What would be a bad first date? What would pose challenges on a date situation? Thinking just like sensory wise, if we want to go for a date in a bar, like that might be kind of chaotic, or like initial first touches. Is there like a light touch that's kind of just like, oh geez, get your hands off me, or any of those like sensory things that just sort of cause some issues when you're first dating someone?
But I think going bit by bit, kind of advancing just half step, and let the other party does the other half step. So the both half steps complete a whole. I think this way it's going to prevent harsh advances. And to me, it works this way. She advanced half step, and I said, okay, I'm going the half step now. And we were in a hole because each one of us had advanced a bit in the conversation, in the touch. She came and touched my hand, and she came and kissed me just a bit. And then as I liked it, she continued. I think this bits is a very safe structure for autistic people. I would say so.
If I'm understanding you right, you're saying going really slow and communicating throughout the whole process of connecting with someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because many people tend to go harshly and driven by emotion. Like,
Yeah.
I found you beautiful. To me, I'm going to be frightened, even though you called me beautiful. I'm going to be frightened. Say, wow, what's going on here? I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah, that makes sense. How about dating then? Like, oh, Spencer, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I can definitely relate that. It's such an embarrassing story. But about 3 years ago, one of my good friends that I think I thought we were just good friends. We watched a movie, and then she's kind of touched my hand a bit. I'm like, okay, what does this mean? And she just kisses me, and I'm like, what the heck just happened? And I just like this most terrible stomach problem, or not stomach problem, but just really bad anxiety. Everything's happened, and I just run out. I'm like, what? So my sensory acuity just went way, way overboard right there. And I can just totally relate to Marcos. It was like a really, I mean, looking back at it, was like a funny experience since that was like my first time ever. But it was something that when I look back at, it was like, yeah, I had really high sensory acuity. Like, it had to be really slow, like letting me know like what was happening before, because I thought we were just watching a movie. That was about it. So
That unexpected.
yeah, yeah.
Was up.
Because usually I wasn't that good with surprises. I was more like, just tell me straight up. So even like in
Yeah.
I wanted people to say like, well, what's happening right now? Kind of talk
I
about it.
think that's really good to know for people, because so you're taking it in that logical standpoint and like just wanting to know what's coming up, what's coming next, what can I expect so I can prepare for it. Whereas some people might think, don't ask me if you want to kiss me, just let it happen. Let's just have it be natural. It's just something that happens. But you're like, I don't want it to just happen. I want to know what's
Yeah.
going to happen. And then I'll feel comfortable and I can go forward with that.
That's not too bad. Yeah, after the first time, yeah.
That's really good to know, though. And I think when you're dating someone, then you have to communicate and let them know those things, just like someone would communicate their love language. Okay, I know that you love me because you kiss me on the forehead before you leave for work. That shows me that you love me. But if I don't tell my husband something like that, maybe he'll not do it, or he'll stop doing that, and then I'll start thinking, is he upset with me? Does he not love me as much anymore? You start just playing games in your own head if you're not communicating really well with each other.
Tara, my mother says it too. My mother has this exact point you told us. She says gestures of love, they have to be translated. No matter if you're neurotypical or not, you have to have the translation. Mm-hmm. You've got to have the why did you kiss me? It's got to have a meaning. And from there I can connect with you. Since it is not so strange, the thing to me and Spencer as well, I think, is the communication, because it's a lot slower than yours in average.
That is a really good point. Really, really good point. Because everyone feels things differently. Everyone likes things in a different way. Like, I've always been a person that can handle being by myself, like, a lot. I don't really care to go to parties, and like physical touch, I'm just kind of like, I don't need it. Like, I guess this is a sensory thing, honestly. If my husband holds my hand, he'll start like rubbing it sometimes, and I'm like, stop moving. Just stop moving. Just hold my hand. Like, it drives me crazy. Or his hand's on my leg and he starts moving. I'm like, just stop moving. Just put your hand down. And like, I have to tell him those things because it's natural for him to like want to rub my back or something. And I'm like, that actually drives me crazy. Don't do that. But if he doesn't know that, then I could just be sitting there being irritated, and like, he'd be like, why is she turning away from me? Does she not want to, Yeah. So all those things have to be communicated, like, in any couple, I think. The things you like, the things you don't like.
I like you said that, because some of the times when if I'm trying to build a relationship with a lady that I may like, usually I don't say I'm autistic, because I feel like that's almost like a significance card in a way, for me at least. So I just try to go with it. And, a lot of people can't really tell that I'm autistic. So I'm kind of like curious, like, on what your advice would be. Since there's some situations, if I did tell them that I'm autistic and they see some maybe nonverbal cues that I sometimes do compared to normal people that might feel as though it's a turnoff or something like that. What would you say, Tara?
Well, I don't think you have to slap a label on anything, especially if you don't want to. I think you go at your own comfort level. I mean, we talk about self-disclosure in like work settings and stuff like that. But I think as you approach a relationship, it's just more like, hey, these are the things I like, these things I don't like. I kind of do this, I enjoy my alone time sometimes. Please don't take that the wrong way. And I think you're just helping that person just learn about you as a person, which I think we all need to do in relationships, because we can completely read each other wrong constantly if we're not talking about stuff. So yeah, I don't think a label is important. I just think that communication is definitely going to be important, especially if you think there's little quirks about you that someone might take the wrong way. I'm trying to think of like an example of something you might, I guess the touch thing, like moving away from like getting irritated. Like, I mean, you could totally take that the wrong way. If we weren't like married, he might just think, oh my God, she does not like me at all. But if that is not the case, I just stop moving. He's gonna watch this and laugh at me.
It's very clever how you do it with small talk, because I can't just point to my girlfriend and say, hey, stop moving. I have to tell her stop moving, because otherwise I'm going to have a sensory overload. And if I have sensory overload, I'm going to be so sad. I have to cut my words, and this is very complicated to me because I'm a wordy guy. So any advice on that?
Well, you bringing up small talk, I think, is a topic in itself in dating and any relationship, because that small talk can be totally misread, right?
I absolutely can't do it.
It's
absolutely other language to me. It's absolutely Greek to me, kind of Russian, Greek, all languages I can understand. That kind of.
So Marcos, if someone says, hey, how are you doing today? That's like a very generic small talk phrase where you're just basically expecting someone to say, I'm good, how are you? But do you feel like in those moments you want to expand on that? Like, I'm doing great because it's my mom's birthday, and are those the kind of like small talk instances where you're like, I just don't know how to cut it short?
Sometimes I don't know how to chore, and I expand in the hope that people are going to catch my phrase and continue the conversation, but they go away because they didn't expect the small talk to be a big talk.
Yeah. I think small talk's really awkward for a lot of people. Like, just like not liking it in general. It's kind of awkward. You just kind of stand there like, okay, what should I say next? Cool, see you later.
By dating it posed a great difficulty to me, because girls came and said, hey, you're beautiful, and I say, hey, you're beautiful, what should I say next? You talk like someone from southern Brazil, and I like your accent, I like the way you inflex the words, great. But she went away. So
I don't see anything wrong with that. I think you're just expanding on your thoughts and your feelings,
I think of relationships, and when we talk about that, not to bring it back to the game thing, but there's like social rules that sometimes we put in place. Like you said, Spencer, about whether or not you disclose autism. You probably wouldn't want to do that when you first meet somebody, because then they'd be like, well, this seems like that's too much information up front when you're just like, you walk up to somebody that you see somewhere and like, hey, my name is Brian and I have autism. You want to go out sometime? That seems like it's like, okay, you led with a huge amount of information that seems overwhelming probably for the other person. But at the same time, and this is what we kind of talked about, Spencer, you have to there's this like unwritten social rule where you have to be interested enough in somebody, but not show too much interest.
Yep.
And there needs to be often this balance that you said is hard to, and I think that both Tara and I feel like are introverted people. Like neither one of us really is huge at going out to parties. Neither one of us are really into small talk. I think that both of us, when we have conversations, are way more engaged in in-depth conversation than small talk. And even with talking with both of you, I know that that's the experience too. You guys want to talk about deep life situations and circumstances that I think early in a conversation would be maybe overwhelming when you're first trying to meet somebody. But I also feel like if you're dating for 9 months and you haven't brought up that you have autism, then that seems like it might be like, then the other person might be like, well, why wouldn't you tell me that at some point? So there's this balance of when do you share information at what point? And that's probably one of the more difficult things to kind of figure out. But what I really like, and what I like most about when we've started doing these episodes, is that the descriptions that you guys give is not just difficulties for people on the autism spectrum.
It's
These
everybody.
are, and the advice that you give is not just good for people with autism. Both of you give excellent advice that's great for everybody.
Exactly.
Marcos, your discussion of this half step, like you take a half a step and I take a half a step, and then there's a discussion about what happens there. That should probably be the roadmap to every relationship ever. If you get too far in, or one person's going too far or too fast, and they might really like somebody, or even the description of like, okay, here's what I did, but here's why I did it. Like, those things are very important, I think, to help nurture and progress a relationship overall. I think a lot of times in relationships, we look at those things and we say, well, didn't you recognize when I did this, it was really because of this, and it wasn't just that at face value? And there's these experiences, like Tara said, often when it's like, it seems like you're mad. Are you mad? And they're like, no, I'm fine. Everything's okay. It's like that is not, like, a lot of times I think,
I can't figure out that.
It's not just people on the spectrum. A lot of times I think guys go, oh, she said she was okay, so she's okay. But that response absolutely means she's not okay. And there's,
she's probably not okay with you.
yeah. And if you're the one asking that question and you're the one getting, the answer. And then, but there's a problem there, not recognizing that she's not okay, but also, don't say you're okay when you're not okay.
Yeah.
And expect that relationship is going to go well. And it doesn't, you guys talk about how confusing relationships were. I was absolutely clueless. And if it wasn't for, like Marco said, with his girlfriend, if the girl didn't come up to me and like make, we might have been friends, but if she didn't come up to me and be like, hey, you're just not getting this, I like you. Like, it wasn't going anywhere, because I was so clueless when it came to understanding and feeling so embarrassed sometimes, or not embarrassed, but I didn't want to make the other person feel uncomfortable, to know when the social cues were given, if they really wanted to do something, because that's another thing that has happened, like, as you go through relationships, is that one person saying, okay, this is something I want, and another person displaying the exact same behavior doesn't mean the same thing. So I think, like I said, Marcus's idea of you take a half step, I take a half step, and we talk and we explain about that, is really, I think, what all people need to take from these experiences.
I definitely do agree, Brian. I like what you said in the beginning. You kind of like talked about it a little bit more, was when you can't be too emotionally invested in the beginning, but be a little bit more cool or logical about it. And there was like this really good quote in the book that really helped me. It talked about, if you're not emotionally invested in a person, they can't control you. And at first I was like, okay, what does this mean? But after kind of rehearing it, it was like, well, if I didn't give them any emotional power over me, kind of like this conversation now, I mean, I'm not really feeling embarrassed about anything, because I'm not like, what if I stutter? What if I do this? Because I'm not giving any negative emotion or any of that type of emotion. if that kind of makes some sense to you guys.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That
And
makes a
another
lot
thing
of
is,
sense.
I think relationships are just so hard to build because we think of it as a physical relationship, which is exactly is that, but it's much more. It's a spiritual, it's an emotional. I mean, we're meant to do so much together. And sometimes when you have a passionate relationship and you have a lot of work and you're like working more than you see your partner, sometimes it's hard to be passionate with the other person. And then that's when you start getting conflicts, is because we're not being as much as emotionally invested in other qualities that could help a relationship.
You know, Spencer, my brother said a thing once about this timing that we give, because life is going to pose distances on us. We have to know this. And my brother says, Marcus, you have to take time to be with the person. If you have like 15 minutes a day, like a short period of time, you take 80% of your energy and go for it, because the energy is important, not the time, because time, he says, is going to pass anyway. There's nothing you can do, but there's a thing you can do on your energy and show other people that you're engaged during that time. I don't know if it makes sense to you.
Yeah, spending quality time is really important, especially when you start getting families and work and everything. And I think a lot of times now we can be just sitting on our cell phones, even when we're with each other. And that is not quality time. You got to put that thing away and actually connect with somebody. And then, you ultimately are going to show someone you care about them when you're just present with them. I kind of want to go back to something you were saying, Spencer, about not showing your emotion so that someone doesn't have power over you.
Yeah.
I think,
yeah, sorry, I'll let you continue.
oh, well, I was just thinking, like, you do have to be vulnerable somewhat, right? You do have to let yourself have emotion and be emotionally invested in relationships. But there's just like, there's boundaries you also have to think about in the beginning. But I think letting yourself be vulnerable and emotional is a very good thing. Just being who you are. If someone isn't connecting with that or doesn't like it, who cares? That's not the right person for you then.
Exactly.
That person will come along. But I think when we think about boundaries, there's just these things that so I'll speak to an experience because I think that might help describe what I'm talking about. So the one time I did go on an app, I had this person reach out to me. I wasn't really feeling it, so I kind of cut that off. Then this person ended up finding me at a local dog park because I was an idiot and I put my name with my dog's name and like my title. Somehow he tracked who I was down, what my dog's name was, and like found out where I lived and stuff. So he showed up there. So who knows, maybe this person was just thinking, wow, I really liked this girl. I just really want to try to connect with her in person. I'm going to find where she's at and I'll meet up with her. But for me, and probably a lot of women out there, it was like, whoa, how did you find me? Like, this is creepy, right? Who knows what his intentions were, but there's boundaries in the beginning that have to be followed, or you're going to really throw someone off. You're going to scare somebody, So some of those times when you're feeling like obsessed or like, I really want to learn all about this person, I want to spew how I'm feeling, that can become overwhelming then, because they're thinking, this is too much, this is too intense. So you do kind of have to like just almost like have that little checklist for yourself of like, what are good boundaries where I'm not like overbearing or I'm not like making someone feel uncomfortable, but at the same time letting myself be vulnerable and be who I am and express myself. I think that's kind of a hard balance in the beginning of a relationship.
I
And it's
100%
not just a, oh, sorry, Spencer, go ahead.
That's what I guess was trying to say as well. Like, be emotionally invested in that relationship. But what I kind of mean is, usually I have like all these negative emotions kind of running through me. Like, what if she says this? What if she says this? What I kind of mean by that is like, take away that negative emotion feeling inside of me,
Mm-hmm.
and like putting myself out there, which you said perfectly and clarified that amazing, which I could not do. But yeah, I think that's a really hard quality that I've been trying to do, and just stay my state of mind as well. If I have a really good state of mind, I feel like I can do better in relationships. I can do better in everything. That's why I like reading, acquiring new knowledge every time in the morning. And I notice that if I do little tasks a day and I take away my cell phone, I feel that I actually get more confidence and helps me with everything in my daily life, including relationship.
I think what you said, both Tara and Spencer, was very important. Having those boundaries, and then, like Spencer said, you know, being vulnerable, and talking about the things you want to talk about. But and this is like my early dating experience. I kind of understood that at a logical level, but then the anxiety is like at 1,000% when you're trying to engage with somebody that you really like. And it's difficult. A lot of times I felt like I was speechless. I didn't know what to say. um, Again, trying to have that um, what's the word, small talk, or how do I continue to engage in a conversation, was always really difficult for me. um, how do you guys handle, like, do you get a lot of stress when you're gonna engage with somebody that you're really interested in? um, how do you, any clues or suggestions for managing those things? I know for me it was often better to do an activity that was like more of a shared activity. Sometimes a movie wasn't really the best thing to do, but sometimes maybe going somewhere that saw music, or participating in an activity outside that created, or in a group that created, more of a scenario where I felt more comfortable to talk about the activity that we're participating in. Where, like, if I went to a movie, or we did something, or dinner, and then it was like just um the only thing holding that moment together was the conversation. And now maybe that was a good thing to do, like 3 or 4 dates into it, because then you had the experience of the activities that you had done previously. But maybe you guys can give some ideas on how to, or if you've had experiences on how to kind of make that initial anxiety less.
I like how you.
Brian, an important thing. Sorry, Spencer. Sorry, I cut you.
No, it's fine, Marcos. All you.
It's a thing that I learned from life, is that autistic people, they have a hyper focus, and this hyper focus is your anchor. So if you detach that anchor, the anxiety is going to go away in certain terms, in certain extents. So you're going to be freer to express your emotions, to let yourself go and enjoy the ride, as we discussed today. I think this is a clue that I always came to figure out, but just now I discovered how to use it, how to detach my anchor and to let my ship go along the way, along the sea of love, let's put it this way, as I used anchor for a metaphor.
I like how you said that, Marcos, the anchor, because we all build neural associations, and once we make it a habit, that's like an anchor, like you said. And for me, like, I like how Brian worded that, because my anchor is when I hear music, I love to dance. And it was funny because I think it was like 3 years ago at Wally Weekend, I was just doing my own dancing, and I always do Zumba with my grandma. So I think I'm a pretty good dancer. I mean, I beat these old grannies, so it must be I'm pretty
Spencer,
good.
that is fantastic. You gotta lead dating with that. I Zumba with my grandma.
Yeah.
You're gonna melt hearts with that one.
That's right. So for me, like, that brings ultimate bliss and passion. And for me, I just feel like I can connect with so many people with that. Compared to if I'm at a bar, I'm like, my anchor is negative, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening. And then I'm like thinking about everything, compared to where just a free flow state for me. But I think it's just, if I wanted to do something in a bar, first I have to figure out how to leverage that painful experience into a pleasurable experience, then break that pattern, and then I'll be able to get that anchor to be more of a pleasurable than a painful experience.
And that's a good strategy. That's a good strategy, because you not only release your anchor, but you put your anchor in a good place.
Exactly.
I don't know if I know what you mean, right? But to me, it seems this way: you take your anchor away from pain, and you put your anchor in the pleasurable experience.
Exactly. But at the same time, it's not gonna be like, oh, I can just change my anchor instantaneously. It's gonna take a lot of effort. It's gonna take,
Yeah, I know.
falls, but you'll get there.
That's a really
And
good starting place for everyone, though, you guys, to make sure that your first few dates are just doing something fun, making sure you're doing something you're enjoying, something they're enjoying, and then you're going to have that shared experience to build upon and start your relationship with. And then there's plenty of time to have boring dinner dates and talk for hours as you feel comfortable. But have fun. That's a good starting place.
yeah, I think making it become funny is the thing, is the driving force. Because if you don't make it funny, if you make it logical too much, and I learned it the hard way, if you make it logical too much, it becomes not so funny. And you don't enjoy and sit back and go with the flow, enjoy the ride. It's not possible if you put logic in front of everything.
Yeah, that kind of leads back to that initial thing you said, Spencer, of I was going to date a girl, but if I didn't see we were going to get married, this, and this were going to happen, then I was like, what's the point? If you're just letting yourself have fun, you may find out you actually really like someone, or, I think that comes with an age thing too. Like if you're not at a point in your life where you feel like marriage is like you're ready for it or something, most people at your age are probably not going to be thinking that way anyways. So you may not see that marriage connection because they're all just kind of having fun and doing whatever. And maybe that just doesn't really register for you because you're like, what's the point? But you could be having some really great experiences if you're just letting yourself have fun and enjoy people's company.
Yeah, I definitely do agree with that, Tara. Dang, I lost my thought there. I was gonna say something really good.
No, it's early. I think we're all really tired today.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we had so much good information, guys. I think this is perfect, in my opinion. We went through everything.
Is it a wrap?
I think that we should probably wrap it up. We've been talking for an hour. We don't want to make these things too long. I feel like we always start out going like, okay, let's shoot for 30 minutes. And then the information is so great. But I do think that we'll have to kind of spin off additional episodes with each one of these topics because they're exceptional. I just want to touch base on social media. We can kind of go through and we'll hit all our social media. Please check out, subscribe, like everybody's social media. It really does help. It helps us push out the message, share. For us on YouTube, it's the Trevitt Learning Channel. On Facebook, it's the Trevitt Center Leaders in Creative Media. And on Instagram, it's at Trevitt Center. Marcus, would you like to share your social media?
For sure. On Instagram, my profile is @Ep3 yeah. And in Facebook, the same thing. I have a fan page there. And YouTube is Diário de Autista, which is Autism Diaries in Portuguese, right? I think it should match both titles, Autism Diaries and Diário de Autista, so people connect it more. But these are my media, and I hope to catch up with you.
Thank you very
your
much.
Facebook?
Yes. Hey guys, my Facebook is Spencer Deppis currently at the moment, and currently I'm getting my Instagram page ready, and that will also be Spencer Deppis as well. So thank you guys for letting me talk. This is awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. For everyone watching, please comment if you have any questions you want us to talk about or any topics. Let us know. We're open to exploring new topics, and we want to make sure that we're doing things that are valid to everyone out there. Thanks for joining us.